What's going on, guys? If you're new here, welcome. If this is your first time, welcome back. It's a No Bullshit Podcast. It's Kai.
Yo, it's Coughlin.
And listen, man, we coming back at it with another football video for you guys. If you saw our last live stream, it was a couple of you guys on there. It was a good amount of you guys on there, actually. It was a good time. We had a lot of laughs, a lot of, surprises and everything. We'll definitely be
Oh
putting
yeah.
out a more expanded video on the whole draft in its entirety, especially the first round, some winners, losers, etc. But this video, we just wanted to give you guys a quick rundown on the players that the Chargers and the 49ers drafted and some of our thoughts on those picks. So without further ado, I feel like it makes the most sense to kind of go in order of rounds. So, with the fifth overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft, the Chargers started it off with left tackle Joe Alt out of Notre Dame. This was a pick that, if you guys saw our live stream or saw any of our clips, it was to say that I was happy about this pick would have been a lie. You know what I mean? But it was no secret. The big guy I wanted was Malik Neighbors. I'm an LSU fan, so to finally see one of my guys from college to go to the pros on both my favorite teams is always something I've been waiting for. But with the picks that we made, after the first round, it definitely made me feel 10 times better about going Joe Alt here. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's as close to no miss as you
Yeah.
can get, in this year's draft, right? So, you shore up that offensive line, you make sure that you keep number 10 up straight. Because listen, at the end of the day, if you want to be not only, a successful team that makes it to the playoffs, but makes some level of a run, you have to have a good offensive line. This is something that we've seen year in and year out. It's very rarely that you see a team that does not have like a top 10, top 5 offensive line have playoff success. So, that's what we're chasing for. So I feel like it just makes so much sense, especially with the additions of our head coach, Jim Harbaugh, and the culture that these guys are trying to build. It makes the most sense to be go Joe Alt here, and I can't be any more happy about it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, obviously initial reactions wasn't the best, right? For sure.
Mhm.
Because we always want the big standout guy, the flashy pick,
Yep.
right? But Joe out, who knows? Maybe at the end of the day that was the right pick, right? And
Mhm.
it kind of reminds me of Jim Harbaugh when he was part of the Niners, he drafted his new Joe Staley, and that's Joe Oat, right? So a Joe for a Joe, right? So I think it was a pretty cool pick for that. But so with that said, the Niners at 31, definitely the surprise of the draft in my opinion, right? Because you
Mhm.
talking about all the other names that were drafted in the first round, right? They were at least talked about in the first round. Ricky Pearsall,
Yeah.
that came out of nowhere, right?
Mhm.
And so yeah, that's the guy we drafted, Ricky Pearsall, receiver out of Florida. And so I think my initial reactions it said it all. I mean, I said that he was a great receiver, and then I just walked off, right? And
Yeah.
so, because it was still a surprise to me, I just didn't know how to take it,
Mhm.
right? Because before the draft started, we had a video a couple days earlier that we explained what some of the underrated guys, right? And Makai mentioned Ricky Pearsall, right? And I also agree with
Mhm.
them, right? Like I have no problem with the player at all. At the end of the day, you are getting a great player. You are getting a dog. You're getting a
Yep.
guy who is, fits really well with your culture and what you want to do,
Mhm.
right? But it's just that at that pick where there's other players that you could have drafted, right? For
Mhm.
example, like a Cooper DeJean, right? Something like
Mhm.
that, right? Where we could have drafted him, or even a Lad McConkey, where we'll get into it later, but you know, I think grabbing him at 31 was a little rich, a
Mhm.
little high for me. But at the end of the day, you're getting the player that you want, and
Mhm.
Kai said it before: no risk it, no biscuit.
Yeah, man. Like you mentioned, in our underrated, overrated prospects, Ricky Pearsall was one of my guys, man. Like I love his game. I love the way that he approaches the wide receiver position. And this is something that you always say about your team in terms of the culture that you guys build with your wide receivers. You know, you don't block, you don't get the rock. So this is a guy that's definitely going to block for you. This is a guy, like you just said, is a dog. So although I do agree, I did not have him going in the first round. At the end of the day, you as a fan, you can't be but so mad, right? Because you're getting a guy that is a professional, man. Like he is a professional football player. You're getting one of those guys in the first round, right? So I definitely feel like he is the perfect player for the 49ers. So as all these picks, only time will tell how they eventually pan out. But I definitely feel as though
Exactly.
that was a great start. So
Hmm.
moving on to second round, speaking of wide receivers, and you mentioned his name, Chargers go Lad McConkey in the second round, man. We actually traded up
Hmm.
for him. And I
Hmm.
can't be any more excited. Like this pick made the first pick 10 times better to me in my eyes because we not only addressed our biggest concern, at least my biggest concern of the team, while also getting probably the best offensive, player, or as Jim Harbaugh would say, best offensive weapon in the entire draft in Joe Alt. So getting a guy like Lamb McConkey, who is in my opinion, besides the top two receivers, Harrison and Neighbors, he is the most complete wide receiver in the draft. He can do everything you need him to do. He can
Yes.
block, he can run routes. He's good at the release point, good at the top of his route. Short routes, intermediate routes. He can run past you. He has hands of steel, like everything, man. Like he listen. That white boy got aura, man, and I'm happy to see him in SoCal, man. I'm happy to see him in powder blue. I will say I am curious to see what number he chooses. Hopefully it's 84. It's the number he had in college. So, but man, I'm excited to watch him. Catch passes from Justin Herbert on Sundays.
I mean, you like you said, and like I said earlier, like Lad McConkey, in my opinion, was the third best receiver in the draft. That's just
Mm,
me,
hmm
right? Because I mean, you guys know that I'm not the highest on Rome, right? And
hmm
I think Brian Thomas, I mean, he had a great season, right? But I just think that what you from like starting out the gates, like hitting the ground running day one, I think Lad McConkey, along with those top two receivers, they were just gonna hit the ground running, right? Other
hmm
guys, they might have to, take a couple weeks, maybe a couple years to just settle into the professional game, right? But Lad McConkey, for what he does, it just seems so simple. So it's like plug and play type of player,
hmm
right? Where I think he can play in any system. There's no like scheming up for him. You just run him a play, and he'll do the best that he can, right? He's definitely a technician of the route running and everything, and this would be interesting how Herbert and Lamb McConkey connection. I mean, we already know about the Stafford Cup connection, so we're gonna have
hmm
another white to white, so it's
hmm
all keep that same energy. You feel me?
hmm
But or the Niners second pick. You guys traded up. The Niners, we did it kind of like the opposite direction. We traded down one spot with the Chiefs. We got our fifth round pick, but most importantly, we still got our guy that we wanted. Right? We
hmm
got a cornerback, Bernardo Green from Florida, and I don't know what it is. First two picks, we took guys from the South, or at least from East, Southeast or whatever, right? And so
Both guys from Florida.
yeah, from Florida. Yeah. So like Bernard Green, talk about a press man corner, right? Definitely want to get into one of the best press man corners in the draft for sure. You can argue he's the best press man corner in the draft. You can definitely argue that.
Mhm,
But I think what stood out to me was his play strength and how he's able to play bigger than he is. Right? He's 5'11", but he plays a lot bigger. When you talk about the first week of the season, Florida State, they matched up with LSU, right? And
mhm,
who was on LSU? It was a Malik Neighbors, right? And so every time when you saw Neighbors and Ronaldo Green go at each other, it was a battle. It was a dogfight. Man, I was like, okay, you won some battles, I won some battles, right? And
mhm,
it definitely put like a little showcase for Ronaldo Green because heading into the year, we all knew Neighbors would definitely be one of those names in the first round for sure,
yep,
right? And so it was interesting how to see from that standpoint to how he started the season, and then how he continues throughout the whole season, how he continued to display his raw, in the run game. He's raw and honestly being very versatile as well. I mean, he's has experiences not only on the outside but also in the inside of the nickel, right? And at times he's played in the safety position in like I think it was a three safety package per se,
yep,
right? And so getting a player like him, he's definitely one for the future for sure. And I think honestly he could start right now for us. right? Because
Yeah.
Deommodore Lenore, who's similar to him, where he could play in the outside or the inside. So it's
Hmm.
kind of blessing in disguise to have a player like him, right? So I think he's a good cornerback to watch out for, and who knows, he could turn out one to be the best.
Yeah, yeah. Back to back picks. In my opinion, you're talking about guys that plug right into what the San Francisco 49ers like to do. You're talking about one of the better or top guys in the nickel position in all of the draft, right? So
Mm-hmm.
a guy that can not only play the nickel, can play outside. He is a switch army knife, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, and one thing that when because I actually watched that LSU and Florida State game. One of the things that always, I just couldn't get my eyes off of was number 8 is out there competing, bro. Like nothing was easy, right? Like there was a
Yeah.
couple, miscommunications with Jaden Daniel and Malik Neighbors, but even on the yards and catches that Malik did catch, he had to fight for it. That number 8 competes. That was the biggest thing I took away, both pass game and run game. He is not afraid to tackle. He's not afraid of contact. So to get a guy in the second round, you can line him up against anybody, and he is going to give it his all. He's not going to back down. That's a guy that is the perfect fit for the 49ers defense that's been dominant for a couple of years now.
Yeah, for sure. And then moving on to the third round, actually, talking about a guy who definitely fit. I mean, let us know, Kai. I mean, you guys drafted your first Michigan player.
Yeah, bro. Like when we have a football group chat, and as the pick was being made, like it was just one guy that I just kept saying over and over and over again, and that was Junior Colson, linebacker out of Michigan, and that was the guy that we picked. A home run pick in my opinion. You're talking about a guy that on many people's draft boards he was the number one linebacker, off ball linebacker in the draft. So for us to get a guy like that in the third round at a position in need, right? We lost both our starting linebackers from last season in free agency. We picked up a couple guys in free agency as well, but Junior Colson, he throws his hat right in the ring in terms of getting himself in a position where he can be the starting guy. This is a coaching staff that is very familiar with him. Former head coach and Jim Harbaugh, former defensive coordinator, and Jesse Mentor. So both these guys know Junior's game. Junior knows their scheme. So that is a huge advantage in terms of a player, transitioning from, the college game to the pro game, just being able to say that I am comfortable with these coaches. They know how to best use me. And then with the draft capital used to get them, I'm excited for what Junior could potentially turn into, right? Because, the last time we had a linebacker named Junior, it turned out pretty well. So, definitely a guy I'm looking forward to seeing, line up on Sundays, man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think like you said, if you came into this draft, right, and Jim Harbaugh, knowing that he's came from Michigan and had a great all time college defense, right, and we were thinking, how many Michigan players would they draft? And shoot, by the third round they drafted one already, right,
Hmm.
and maybe there could have been a snowball effect, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But
Hmm.
that was a great pick in my opinion. I think if you talk to many scouts, if you look at many reports, who knows? Some of these people have him as the best linebacker in
Hmm.
draft, right? And to get him in the third round was great value for sure, right? And I wanna kind of lead on with that with the Niners. We traded up a little bit, I think like 10 spots or so to get the first O lineman that we wanted, right? And it goes by the name of Dominic Pooney from Kansas, right? Talk about a mauler in the pass game, man, where I think in 343 pass block attempts, he allowed 0 sacks and 0 QB hits. That is insane, man, insane. Talking about a great pass blocker. He is a raw run blocker. I mean, he has to still clean up some things here and there, right? But I think for him is that I think he can definitely compete, and he kind of plays like in a guard slash tackle position, so it's a kind of like a tweener in a sense, but it's a good tweener where in the sense that like he played really well at both positions, right? And so I'm confident where I know he did play on the left side a little bit, but I think he can definitely get some playing time if he competes at the right tackle position because You guys know how much how much I went crazy on that Super Bowl game when our
Hmm.
right tackle, or and especially our right guard who was the starter at the time, then he got injured, and then our backup came in. It was just mind boggling how bad that right side was. Right,
Yep.
so to get somebody like him, it definitely shows up our potential on the right side, where our left side is kind of shored up until Trent Williams is away. But I
Hmm.
think for the now, he's a good player for just to compete there and to potentially even start. Depending how he does in training camp and the preseason.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is a position in need, and in my opinion, you guys got the best player available at that spot.
Yep.
So this is definitely going to be competition going into camp. And listen,
Mm-hmm.
may the best man win at for all these prospects. But as we move on to some of these later rounds, I'll just list off a couple guys and positions that the Chargers drafted, and I'll just talk about the biggest name in my eyes. But fourth round, not even going to try to pronounce his last name. That shit's crazy. But he's a D lineman out of Alabama, man. And when I turned on the tape and I watched some of his highlights, I definitely feel as though he's a powerful guy. Chargers drafted two corners in the fifth round, so another position in need. So very interested to see how those guys perform in camp. Trying to listen to some of those reports. We picked up running back Kamani Vindel, or should I say Vidal, in the sixth round. Running back out of Troy, smaller guy, but again, another a guy to compete. And the two biggest guys, in my opinion, in the seventh round, we picked up. I don't know if you guys have heard of this guy, but Brandon Rice. He had a dad that used to play football, so I feel like that's a pretty solid pick. And then another guy, Jim Harbaugh gets his second Michigan guy, Cornelius Johnson, wide receiver out of Michigan. So both these guys, both Brendan Rice and Cornelius, I feel like both those guys, along with Lad McConkey, like they all are, creating such a young and talented um, wide receiver room. So when you talk about camp, when it comes to competition, all those guys, I'm looking forward to seeing those guys compete. But the biggest one, obviously out of these later rounds is Brendan Rice. This is a guy that I honestly saw going a lot higher than the seventh round.
Yes.
And
Oh my God.
listen, he's a big body receiver. He's a guy that, if I believe was a second team All Pac-12 last year. So this is a guy
Yep.
that is talented. He has talent. Obviously, son of Jerry Rice, he has the right people in his ears, the right people, coaching him up. So getting him in this building and seeing what type of guy he can, develop in a couple years or so, I'm more than excited for that.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, I think you guys saw me in our football group chat that we have, right? That I was like, oh my God, Rice is dropping, Rice is dropping, right? It's like, please, Niners, pick him up. I got to see the legacy pick. I don't care what happens else, right? But it's at least seeing him going to a team where I think they definitely can use him right. I'm glad that he's going to a team that they have a great quarterback for sure, top five quarterback, consensus, right? And he's going to a great coach, great system in the sense that who knows, we know that Justin Herbert had that Keenan Allen connection. And Brendan Rice might be that for Justin Herbert, right? If
Hmm.
he develops correctly, right? And I think it's just great to see, future NFL or previous NFL legends rather, right? And having their sons, come in the league and actually get drafted,
Yeah.
right? Because I didn't want to see a world where Brendan Rice goes undrafted, and it's like, oh man, he didn't get drafted, right? But at least he gets drafted. That's all what's important.
Hmm.
He gets a chance.
That's what he
And that's what
tweeted
he's.
out.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he tweeted out. Said all I need was a chance.
Hmm.
Charge up, man. So I'm proud for you guys. But the Niners. Talk about our day three picks. I'm just like Kai said. I'm just gonna run down through here. Let's see. We got a safety in the fourth round, Malik Mustafa. We also
Love
got
that pick.
I Yes, sir. And I'll definitely get into that.
Hmm.
After that, we actually had two more fourth round picks that we traded out for. We had Isaac Arendo, running back, Louisville.
Hmm.
So that was definitely an interesting fourth round pick that
Hmm.
we had. And then right following him, shortly after, we had Jacob Crowing, receiver from Arizona. And so after that, we had Jared Kingston and Tatum Bethune. Just to start it off, Malik Mustafa, right? I think that was a phenomenal pick
Home
for
run.
us. Like, talking about a guy who I think if Hufanga is still hurt, we can let him just sit for a little bit for the first couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mustafa has that potential to still start for our
Yep.
team, man, or find a way to have some type of impact,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, I think it could be similar to the situation where, you know, I think last year when I was like, no, a couple of years ago when Hufanga in his second year, uh, where he was trying to slowly start into the game as to our roster, but Jimmy Ward was our starting safety at the time, but he was injured, right? And so who stepped up with them? It was instead of him, it was Hufanga and I believe it was Taj Gibson,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I think it was something like that where I could definitely see what we can do that again. Not in the sense that Hufanga is going to be on a bench for the whole time, but I think it helps us ease in the process of not rushing him onto the field for sure. But talking about from a player standpoint, he is all and everywhere on the field for Wake Forest, right? So he's just wherever the ball is, he's there, right? And that's the main thing for the Niners, where we love gathering to the tackle, we love gathering to the ball, right? Like where it's like you see Fred Warner, you see like you said Fufanga or Jair Brown, right? He fits the mold of our team, and I think that continues the theme of our picks here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially early on, where like we find guys where they might not fit other places, but they fit here. They
Yep.
fit our culture, they fit our system, and we fit what we want to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think leading on from Mustafa here is Isaac Garendo. Talking
Mm-hmm.
about a physical specimen in the sense that like his stock rose, man. Talking about from the combine to the Senior Bowl and all of that, right? Talking about a guy who is 6 foot, 221 pounds, but runs a 4.3. Like he's talking about a guy who's that big just shoots out the cannon is insane,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think him coming to the Kyle Shanahan system, right? And there's a interesting rumor that I saw that if he's not able to have a spot as a running back on our team, we're gonna have to find some ways for him to get on the field, in the sense that we might find a way to transition him at least for the first year as a fullback, which could be interesting in the sense that like he is a physical being, in the sense that if he wants to develop that role. I mean, Kyle Juszczyk, there's no other better player to learn from,
Yeah.
right? In the sense that like if he becomes a fullback in the future for us when Kyle Juszczyk leaves, it's gonna be interesting because he brings a different dynamic feel to the game instead of Juszczyk. Because we know Juszczyk, he's very versatile, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think if Isaac Rendo actually chooses the path to become a fullback for our team, it's gonna be interesting. It could set the tone for for the future of the I think how NFL rosters see positions,
Mm-hmm.
where you can have a fullback that's pretty big, but also like very very athletic,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's going to be an interesting pick for the future, especially when you have two running backs that we have in Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason, who are free agents next year. So that's like insurance policy for that. And then after that, the only other guy that I know of is Jacob Crowing.
Mm-hmm.
He's a receiver from Arizona, like I said, and
Great pick.
talking about a guy who is very, very quick. He's
Mm-hmm.
twitchy. He's like, it's and it's funny. It's all about yak
Yeah.
nowadays. For at least for us, our team, we predicate our whole offense on yak,
Mm-hmm.
right? And talking about a guy who fights for every yard. He's a physical player, man. Just like Ricky Pearsall, like I said in the first round, he is a dog, man. He is a dog. Like he will block for you, right? He will do everything that it takes, right? And I think one thing that I kind of see is that Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Crone, they could be fighting for like a special team spot, in the sense that they can
Yeah.
return punts, or on kickoffs as well. So it's gonna be interesting how we do like training camp battles with that. So that's always interesting to look at. And besides that, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know the other two guys that we drafted. Hopefully they'll turn out to be great rotational guys, or at least good special teams.
Yeah.
guys, right? But I think besides those guys, I think there's one guy I wanted to talk about that I didn't mention yet, and it's an undrafted free agent actually, and it's although we didn't get some of the legacy picks that we wanted with Rice, Gore, or what's it called, McCaffrey, we got a Owens, we got Terrell Owens' son, and it's Tariq Owens,
Mm-hmm.
right? We brought him in for a visit. We did like the little camp thing that we had near our stadium with all some of the other prospects. And who knows? Obviously he's the training camp body, and I think it's just cool to see that at least one guy that we got, it was a legacy pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I feel like Mustafa was a home run pick, man. Like you're talking about a guy that pound for pound, you can make an argument that he is the best tackler in the entire draft. Like every
Yes.
single tackle, 99% of
Mm-hmm.
his tackles are form tackles, and when he tackles somebody, they stop running, right? And you're not
Mm-hmm.
he has real game speed, right? Where he may a running back may think that he has a runaway touchdown, but here you see Mustafa just tracking him down and bringing him down, right? So like you just said, I feel like in a position where Hufunga may miss some time during the regular season, you're getting guys, you're getting bodies, in that back end that can kind of lessen that blow a little bit, right? Where he can get 100% healthy, and you guys, aren't suffering, right? As because listen, if that defense had Hufunga, if that defense had Greenlaw, we may be talking about instead of drafting 31, drafting 32, right? So big time players, but getting guys in the draft that can supplement and that can learn under those guys, perfect fits for the locker room and the type of culture that you guys have built over the years, pretty much since John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have taken over the show. These are picks that I just love for you guys. So with that being said, like it was an amazing draft for both of our teams. Like
Yeah.
from a fan perspective, and I'm sure you agree. Like I can't be much happier with the guys that we drafted, man. Like it's not very often that not a lot of teams can say that they love their team's entire draft. You know what I mean? They might like one pick,
Mm-hmm.
they may not like any, but all of the picks that both teams made sense. They both fit our team.
Give me a grade. Give me a grade.
Listen, if I had to grade the Chargers draft, and listen, I'm biased, but shit, it's my team. This was an A draft for us, especially compared to some of the drafts we've had in the past, where they haven't been very great. So to see a draft like this, the
Yeah.
first year under the Jim Harbaugh era, they knocked it out of the park. I have to give my team an A.
Nice, nice. I think I would agree with you. You guys definitely deserve an A. You guys hit all the needs that you guys needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which so you hit receivers, linemen, some defensive rotation pieces, corners. You guys went, I think, two corners. I think,
Yep,
right? So I think you guys drafted Cam Hart, which I think it's gonna be a starter for you guys for sure. I mean,
sure
I don't know
did.
how you feel about that, right? But I think for me, the Niners. I'm gonna keep it real. I think it was like a B minus, maybe a C at that, right? But I definitely do think that this is a way better draft class than last year. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, but it's not that hard though, because last year we didn't draft into the third round, right? So, so it is what it is. But talking about, I think top heavier wise, I think from rounds 1 through 4 at least, where the six guys that we first drafted definitely hits. I definitely can see all these guys contributing. And at the end of the day, as long as you get your guys, you'll be fine,
Yep.
right? And it's all about them, just basically translating their college game to the NFL game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, man. What are your guys' thoughts on the Chargers draft? What are your thoughts on the 49ers draft? What's your thoughts on your own team's draft, right? If you aren't a
Yeah.
shared fan of these two teams, right? Make sure you drop that in the comment section below, man. We definitely are looking forward to see your guys' opinions. And like I said, we would definitely be doing a longer video, going over the
Yes.
entire draft, especially the first round. Some of our winners, some of our losers, some of our surprises.
Yeah.
What picks or players that we feel as though went a lot higher than we had anticipated, and what players fell that we didn't see coming. So
Yes.
definitely be on the lookout for that. This is don't like just because it's the off season does not mean that we are not having videos pumping out. Like we definitely are in the dead of basketball right now. But listen,
Hmm.
there's always it's always a good day to talk football, man. So definitely be on the lookout for all
Yes,
the
sir.
videos that we plan to be coming out soon, especially after a little bit of a layoff. But with that being said, man, all of our social media links will be in our description. You guys have always been showing love on there, so we appreciate if you guys continue to do so. And with that being said, man, it's been a No Bullshit podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yes, sir. Peace.